Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. I'm Inquisitor Temperance Price, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is the third volume in a report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesis adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee and players Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt as Atticus Viz, Laura Hamstra as Eli Sharp, and Della Borovic as Morgan Rawls. My report shows that the Inquisitorial band is preparing to sneak into Greybridge. Atticus discovered he has to impersonate a noble, Morgan started to teach him how to act fancifully, Valentyne struggled to break Eli of his naval precision, and the team made ready to join high society. Will they be able to earn an invitation to the Cloud Palace, or will they meet their doom? Find out next in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
An invitation from King Fitzgerald. Friends, subjects, the season has come at last. And this will be one of particular note. As you know, my cousin is quite the eligible bachelor, and happily for all involved, he's open to offers from anyone. So dress your best, bring your best game. After all, some fortunes will rise and others shall fall. I look forward to seeing you soon. Spring comes in a week. So, you are on your way to Greybridge. You have not received that invitation, but you don't need it because you've got sneaky information. You are in search of the Eldari fugitive Trin Rakai, who Valentyne, you have seen sort of dimly in your visions, as well as, of course, Devram Gnarl very clearly saw in his. The fugitive is in the court of King Fitzgerald, but in order to reach him, you'll first have to win the heart of a duke, as you know you do in 40K. That famous scenario. So
Eli's still mad we can't just kill them all.
Yeah, that ain't going away, my friend.
I know.
In the grim darkness of the future, there is only learning manners.
Yeah, he's never going to be comfortable, but
yeah.
just for the record.
Would you say he's never been satisfied? Because that also fits this Corley vibe.
And Valentine's not going to miss his shot.
Yeah, there we go. We got it. Rent. So
I was gonna make the same joke.
Morgan, I got you back. So Morgan, you were working with Atticus on lying, and he kind of got it. You got it with the delegation. So we skipped your roll, and now I would say we're getting close to the plan. As I said, we've had enough time over travel that you could heal all your wounds up.
Super.
Yay!
The one thing I'll say though, Atticus, for you is having had your head injured so badly, you've been sewn up, and you know the wounds are beginning to heal. It'll be up to you and I guess your resident stylist Morgan Rawls, whether or not you want to get anything for that when you get planetside. On the one hand, it kind of benefits you because it certainly makes the long lost nephew thing a bit easier. If it's you don't look quite like him, and it's well, this. But it may also hinder your chances of making an impression in society. So leave it up to you. But otherwise, yeah, the bandages have come off, and you've got pretty gnarly, still very, very raw scars. But your face has been put back together rather well. I mean, Thaddeus Thunderhorn is actually a fucking spectacular doctor. It's just
I'll never tell him that.
No, of course not. No one will. But it's something for me to know and for him to not find out.
Valentine will tell him.
That's nice.
Valentine believes that everyone should be very psychologically committed to this team.
Fair enough.
He doesn't care. He just knows people are more useful when they feel helpful.
Well, but the effect is the same. Caring. So anyway, all that to say that mechanically, yes, your wounds are healed up. I think we can skip the critical, trying to normally you roll to recover from a critical injury. Given that yours was being winded, I feel just having a fucking nap is fine. Yeah. You will need that strain soon, though, because
I also had on the brink.
Yeah. So that is one we should probably give a roll for to see how far back from the brink you've come.
Okay, maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut.
Well, maybe. And then YouTube comments could have told me about it. Honestly, it probably would have been worse because it would have been 2 arcs from now. I'd be oh yeah, you were on the brink. So as you're trying to punch Abaddon, you just fall over and die.
I mean, based on how a lot of plot armor works, that kind of checks out.
Yeah, nailed it. Just call me Tom, Games Workshop. Okay, so to recover from your critical injury, I'm going to need a resiliency check, please.
That happens to be brawn.
It does.
Lovely.
It does. So I'm going to need a difficulty of 3.
Okay.
Is there any boost added for Thaddeus and the homies?
So, yeah, you get a boost for Thaddeus for sure. I don't think I would give you any setback, honestly. You've got a lot of time to rest up.
Yeah, we're not exactly physically taxing ourselves.
No, and there's and like a lot of what you would be, because the other thing is, like, normally I might give you setback if Atticus was just doing Atticus stuff where he refuses to rest, but all of the training he needs to do could be done while he is resting. So I don't see any reason to give you a setback for that.
Okay.
And warp travel
I don't know.
takes time.
Wait, how much does reading take out of it?
Well, he's got an audio book, so
right,
less.
A lot of bases being covered here.
Yeah, truly.
I was say also warp travel takes time. This is not Star Wars hyperspace where they're like, and then a day later, it's like, nope, we're riding a cannonball through hell.
Greybridge isn't super far away, so it's not like you're at this for months. But yeah, to your point, it's not like, and now we're here. Like we had fun space for an hour, and now we're here. So that's all that in mind. Go ahead and roll, unless you have any other arguments you'd like to make.
Let me take a quick look at the old character sheet, but I don't think I have anything in terms of recovering from criticals. No.
Realistically, also, Tyler, this isn't going to be your only chance to recover from this because you are traveling for a while. This is just the...
Right.
We shall see.
1 triumph and 3 advantages.
Oh man, that seems like a healed to me.
All right. Off the brink.
And honestly, on a triumph, you heal 2 critical injuries, so that actually covers the other one I was just going to give you for free. So, yay, mechanics, we did it. Okay, yep. So feeling fine. Again, you're a resolute fellow. Having some rest time is so new to you that I think you recover like extra well faster, because it's like, oh, you mean if I'm not also running 2 miles a day with my power fist arm ready, my chest heals faster? Weird. I would be curious though, Tyler, in your mind, what are the kind of lasting marks that Atticus carries out of this? Obviously, you got the facial scarring. You're rocking a monocle right now, but in terms of your armor, anything else? Are there any changes that you think from your experience fighting Kanehurst?
His armor would have taken quite a lot of damage, obviously, and that is already customized armor with a depiction of the Emperor on it. So I think he would take some time to restore that.
Okay.
That's important to him. Other than that, I think, the way like bullet scarring is, of like just like these weird little circles of just puffy or darkened kind of skin of the scar material. I think that's where like different teeth and claws just sunk into the meat of his like chest and arm and things like that. So he's got these little, not little, but good sized dots on him of scarring that way, when he was basically in a mouth. Okay. I think that's a lot of the physical stuff. So the armor looks worse, but there's also evidence of it being repaired on an ongoing basis.
Cool.
Which he won't be wearing as this guy, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think the benefit you have as well is like having a power fist for a hand. If you did need to pop out a dent, like, you don't need an armor for that. You can just lightly press, give it a gentle caress, and shift metal. Okay, cool. I like that a lot. Are there any other preparations that you guys would make on your long journey? Other than, again, keeping in mind that the resting up and healing is like a significant amount of time for everyone, I guess, except for Morgan, who didn't take any damage.
That's the sniper.
And she thinks it's easy. Valentyne would be also training Morgan in combination of dealing with his own injuries to keep his flexibility, because Valentyne is, again, Scholar Progenium trained. He's been trained since he was a kid. There's no day where you don't go through, your hour worth of combat training every morning. But the clear deficiency that Morgan has for close combat would bother Valentyne a great deal, especially for an interrogator who's going to get trained up. So I think this is, 2 chain swords. He's training her like he learned. When he was 6, they gave him a chain sword and sent him into class. So teaching her how to spar and work with a chain sword and stuff like that in the mornings. And then she's just got a shitload of stuff to read for this general mission. Yep. But at some point, he would sit down with Morgan in his office and be like, all right, so there's no official handbook, one might say, for how to train an interrogator. It's a methodology that's chosen by every Inquisitor. They choose it when they please. What are the questions you have?
The questions that I have about what interrogator entails.
Yes, and how to become an Inquisitor. It's really a transitionary role. It can just take some time.
It's about becoming an Inquisitor. You want this for me?
Okay, so the level of understanding about what an interrogator is appears to be lacking. So let me explain.
Well, I know that Kanehurst has taken ones before, but I've never seen someone actually graduate into being an Inquisitor. I figured it was a sentence of death, mostly.
I mean, life is a sentence of death in this galaxy, but to be clear, Kanehurst was a heretic who doesn't follow any of the known rules and then turned himself into an alien and killed everyone. So we're not going to follow his example. Traditionally, interrogators are investigators with all of the skill set required to potentially become an Inquisitor. Then they are put into the field on practical duties under the mentorship of an Inquisitor, and at the time that Inquisitor deems acceptable, they fully become a member of the Inquisition.
Or, according to you, when you die, which is how you became Inquisitor, yes?
I was given a field promotion, so the Inquisitor died and then decided I was prepared. If the Inquisitor had not decided that, I would have remained an interrogator. It would have been a bit messy. I would not have been assigned to a specific Inquisitor. I could have floated around effectively in the organization for quite some time.
I see. Inquisitor, you still owe me one question from when you interrogated me to begin with.
I mean, I've offered you any question you want, but sure, go ahead.
You were asking me about this job. I wish to ask about you.
Yes, go ahead.
Why, when you lost your eyes, did you not just die? Who decided you were worth fixing?
That would be the Scholar Progenium, which ultimately means the Emperor. One loses one's eyes as a punishment for a crime one commits. Then it is replaced because your scores are excellent at the school that you attend. You move forward, become a commissar, eventually trained by the Inquisition.
If you committed a crime...
Oh, you must be really bummed you wasted that one question up front, must you?
It's great hearing him say bummed.
Perform well on this mission, and I'll give you one more personal question that is outside the purview of your training as interrogator.
All right. I wish you know what the crime was.
No. I said perform well on this mission, and then you get that question. You don't give rewards up front. Lesson 1 of the Inquisition.
All right.
Carrots later, stick immediately. The Inquisition theory.
Fine. All right. So what is... Aside from becoming an Inquisitor, what is the main goal of being your interrogator personally?
It's to become an Inquisitor. That's the goal. You need to absorb any skills that you're currently lacking. I would say close combat is tremendously embarrassing. I believe prioritization of assets you would struggle with. You seem to have a survival instinct that overwhelms your ability to complete the mission, so you'll need to overcome that. And you also need to start focusing on humanity above all else. You have the ability, however, to cut losses almost immediately. You have a certain ruthlessness that I find charming. You're an excellent liar. You're capable of manipulating others. You've just been doing it for the wrong reasons. And you are superbly capable of murder. All of these things are completely required. Your interrogation skills seem acceptable, and I would say your investigative skills are fine.
All right. Thank you for the overview.
You're welcome. You seem incredibly angry about becoming an interrogator, a path which I would remind you chose. You could have left.
I chose to stay. I did not choose to be whatever this is.
Would you like to remove yourself from consideration of a future with the Inquisition? I know the expression change you just made. I would just like to know exactly the expression that is being made in the scene for those listening in audio.
I don't know what my face is doing.
Just beautiful narrowing of the eyes.
Yeah, it was
okay.
it was like pleasant and frustrated to like a grumpy downturned lip of like, motherfucker, don't do this.
Okay.
There could have been no change in the scene. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, just I don't know.
Well then, here is your first lesson. There are certain choices that you must make based on the information you have, if one is to be a successful Inquisitor or survive working with the Inquisition. No one has all the information. You don't. You know what you know. Canehurst, absolute monster, Inquisitor. Myself, much more effective, protected you in combat at the same time, highly effective at what I do, and a lot of people who work with me die. That's what you know.
Yes.
So do you want to be an interrogator or not?
Fine.
I hate to be a stickler on technicalities, but I'm not going to accept a fine when you swear an oath to the Inquisition and the Emperor to speak as his voice at some point further down the line.
Inquisitor Valentyne.
Yes.
I will swear an oath to you to become an Inquisitor, but not to the Inquisition.
Why?
Because I trust you. But the Inquisition at large, if you've seen, has many holes and many problems and many people who are not doing the right thing.
You pose an interesting conundrum for me, which is I believe you have the right amount of paranoia to make an effective Inquisitor. But your abject refusal to work within the bounds of the Inquisition means I have to accept an oath to an organization from you that I know is in fact untrue. Can you understand the bind that this puts me in? Because that means the oath is non-functional.
Well, the oath is to you. And if this mission goes awry or you are gone, then perhaps I will choose something else. But in the meantime, I wish to work for you.
I will take this under consideration.
Understood.
Let's get I think a leadership check, maybe?
From who?
From, well, I'm trying to figure out, like...
I thought I knew who was being tested in that scene, but
Yeah. It flipped
now I
a
don't
bunch.
know. Yeah.
Actually, you know what, Ryan, you've got an Inquisition knowledge skill, right? I think we gave you that.
I have forbidden lore, but it's not something we can do that if you want. What are you trying to figure out? I'm trying to figure out where Tommy at. Like what you check.
I'm not necessarily trying to give you something you're great at here. It's more so like this is an odd situation, and I think like you guys have role played it delightfully. However, I want to bring the dice in to make sure that we aren't purely running on our ability to yes and each other, because I think the complication from all these things is that like the dice can really fuck this up one way or the other, and that's kind of what I want. Because conversationally, I think we reached a really nice point. So what I'm trying to get at is like,
well, I guess because like I know where we are verbally, and I know what Valentine's thinking are two different things. But is it the yes and? I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, sorry, I'm just a little.
That's why I took my glasses off and ran my hands. It's basically, I guess what I'm trying to deal with is like, can Valentyne? Do we need to roll something to determine if Valentyne can roll with this for now? And or do we need to roll something to see if Valentyne can actually deeply convince Morgan of this? Those are the two issues I'm kind of playing with.
Yeah.
So if you have something deeper that's going on in Valentine's head, then that's fine. We might be able to skip this roll. I just want to make sure that we're keeping the element of chance fucking with our ability to improvise.
Do you know what? Why don't we roll to see? Because here's the deal. Valentine in head is like, I can't accept this promise. This is a bullshit promise. This is, I'll be an interrogator if you're my boss. Otherwise, I'm not an interrogator. And like, fuck you. That's the most insane statement possibly made in the history of the Inquisition. So he could theoretically pretend to accept it and buy time, knowing that she needs to make a fucking decision to do this. Or if he is training an interrogator, which is how he was trying to function in this conversation up till right now, it's, I'm not going to lie to this person about any of the ugly truths about the Inquisition. then he would need to address this right now. So it's like his instinct of I can play this out and be smarter in the long game and more morally flexible, or I need to do a duty to this person immediately. So essentially, can he buy time or not buy time? Does that roll make sense?
That makes sense. I don't know that I need a roll for that necessarily if that's the way you want to play it. It sounds like conversationally you want to see how it goes in the long run, yeah?
That would be where my first instinct was, but I'm as Valentyne, I can tell you, I'm not 100% on this strategy. What Morgan just said is completely fucking insane.
Okay, all right.
But he also does not know the history of, you can't really fire an interrogator or like demote them. Like it's a really weird job requirement.
So why don't we then go with let's make this more of a save type situation where it's like
a social save. I like that, where he's like, save yourself from pulling the pin out of this fucking grenade.
I think it's either.
I don't think anyone is
negotiation.
Valentyne
it's I'm thinking it's like a willpower or a cunning situation, because it's like I've been using willpower
special
so
Morgan
far in terms of like, can you hold your tongue? This was the like on our previous social roles when we were trying to figure out like the training piece. It's like, do you have the willpower to just like, does Eli have the willpower to shut up and eat shit?
Yeah.
So here it's almost like your will. Well, okay, Ryan, which of these would he be leaning towards?
My guess would be streetwise cunning, because it's the ability to work around a rule.
Okay.
To play it smart, maybe, if we're looking at like his ability, where he's like, okay, I think she's actually going to come around to this idea eventually if I give this time. So if I play it smart, it'll be this. But if she makes me too fucking angry, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll take that. So let's say it's streetwise cunning and the difficulty will be your willpower roll. So whatever your willpower.
Whatever my willpower is. Oh, I love a roll versus self.
Yeah.
This speaks to my brain.
And Morgan.
Oh.
How earnest are you being about this? I feel like you're really just kind of trying to give him like the most accurate understanding of what's.
Oh yeah, I think she respects him too much to just lie to him and say, okay, I'll go along with it. She's really trying to be real about her point of view in this situation.
Yeah. Okay. So let's add a boost to that roll then, Ryan, because I think what's interesting about this is you're dealing with someone who is being 100% on the level with you, which gives you the benefit in figuring it out. Like you have all of the information is on the table for you that you can get.
Yeah. And if you want more of Morgan's like interior point of view, it's like I discussed this like off air that being in the Inquisition for Morgan, even though she's a capable person, Kanehurst didn't let her go anywhere or do anything or go on any missions. So she basically got taken out of this rogue trader training to be put into prison, to be like an object that lived on the ship and did nothing. And so Valentyne being like, hey, go be a prison warden with me. And she's like, sure, with you. And he's like, no, believe in the institution of prison. And she's like, how about fuck you?
Well, and also like, your version of your vision of the Inquisition is also drastically different. And like you knew Kanehurst was up to no good, or like it's unlike Eli's come to this point, but I think like for Eli, until he realized that Kanehurst had literally engineered his entire downfall, it was just like, no, this is how the Inquisition works. It's fine. For you, it was like, I had a good thing. You took it from me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you killed everyone I care about, and then you put me on a show. Like,
yeah. And on top of it, she constantly tried to get into his business and figure out what was going on. And she watched everything. So she would have realized Kanehurst is deleting information, and then things that he's sending back to the Inquisition have big holes in them.
Yep.
And then he goes and hangs out at this base and it acts all nice to everyone when I know he's lying, but I can't say anything because then I will get killed. So it was just like, are you kidding? You really want me to trust all these motherfuckers? Come on.
Yeah. Cool.
Alrighty.
And Toby, pleasantly indifferent.
Yeah.
Toby, the real emotional rock of this series. Toby and Atticus both keeping their shit together. 4 successes. All right, that's an extreme number of successes.
Okay. So, Valentyne, you're able to hold your tongue and play your long game. Having had kind of a difficult conversation, is there anything further you two would want to discuss, or is that kind of where you would leave it?
I mean, Valentyne has to pause all forms of education. He can't teach her anything about the ongoing function of the Inquisition because she doesn't fucking want to learn any of it. So he would let that go, and he's done.
Is that all, Inquisitor?
Yes.
All right. She's leaving, wringing her wrists because, oh my god, chainswords with my precious sniper hands. Thanks a lot.
And then Valentyne would just make a note in his data slate to record a message explaining to Morgan to be delivered upon his death that he had already submitted reports to the Inquisition Command Center and promoted her to interrogator in formal writing. So in the eyes of the Inquisition, she is now the property of the Inquisition and does not have a choice in this decision. But that will remain in Eugene to be reported only upon his death. Until now, he will allow her the illusion of freedom to make her own choice.
Super.
I'm really glad I made you make that roll.
That was going to be the reveal.
Yeah, legit. All right. Cool. Eli, is there anything you would have been working on? Yeah, your classic catchphrase. Is there anything, having learned some of the manners and the order of things, you're obviously looking up like piloting and everything else. Is there anything else you'd want to be doing between here and Greybridge?
Man, Eli's like really pissed. Like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, I think just
Marty?
to borrow a phrase from my previous character, he's like really consumed by the fact that like this one guy who saved him, who seemed to save him all those years ago, actually in effect orchestrated his downfall. So and without having drink to turn to, because he's really determined to not go back to that because he wants to be sharp again. He's gonna start journaling. Mm-hmm. So that's it. He's just gonna be like, I'm so, but his journals are gonna be like, you know, the day's dates, like, so fucking mad, fucking Canehurst with this stupid fucking plans and ruining everything. And that's.
I was curious if his tone, like in my head, it was kind of like a dearest journal. It is I, Eli Sharp, and I'm glad he writes the way he thinks and speaks.
Yeah, it's like total like chicken scratch, and like as the entries go on, it gets like bigger and like messier because he's just so mad. But
it's all right. You got pages to spare.
He kind of feels better afterwards, though.
I mean, journaling will do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And Morgan, was there anything you want to do other than having massive life-altering training and arguments with the Inquisitor?
Yeah, man, it would throw her for such a loop, but she has nothing else except appearing in Eli's room in the middle of the night while he's journaling.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Sorry, there's something else Valentyne would make this interesting, too. My apologies. Another conversation. The next day. We'll just cut it down this journey.
Everyone gains one wound back.
No.
Yeah.
After the chain swords for an hour. And he's teaching you like the basics, but also the advanced stuff, because they talk about this in chainsword duels, which is really interesting, is they're terrible dueling weapons, but they are a nightmare to fight somebody else with a chainsword because you can reverse the direction on the teeth to throw the other person's weapon aside and then attack, and you never know. So you're getting to the advanced stuff now. You're learning how to reverse the chain speed.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, he just says, the other morning I was coming to find you, and your quarters were empty, and I did not know where you were in the ship. I don't require an answer, but what I do require is that you are available as required. So I have two options for you. One, you can have a tracker inserted into your body so I know where you are and you can wander the ship at will. Or two, we will set up a cot at the edge of my quarters where you can sleep so that I can keep track of you should there be any need of you that I require.
I'll take the cot.
Wonderful. And Valentyne's just gone. For him, this is just a totally functional emotional conversation.
Okay, so that updates my conversation with Eli in the middle of the night. Because prior to leaving said cot in the middle of it's in your office.
Oh, yeah.
She's going to look for that booze in that office.
Cool. All right. So.
What?
All right.
I was going to be too dangerous to sneak into his office, but I have access now.
Okay.
What is going on?
mean, this is how Dell ends up with a new character. I think is what's going on. Okay. So let's go with.
Oh, what? No.
I guess I'm gonna say skullduggery. I
Chaos
think.
gremlin.
Dell, what are you? Dell.
What?
All right. So skullduggery.
What? It's fine.
Valentyne.
My perception, assuming I'm sleeping in the room while she's sneaking.
Well, yeah. Like, would there be instances where she would be in the room without you?
No.
Then yes,
She's there so I know where she is, so I can literally give orders if I need her to do something because she's important.
Yeah. So then against perception for sure. So I guess you're cunning.
Dope. Or if you want perception, it would be 3 purple and a red.
Okay. So it that. Given that this is in the room where he is, we might want to shift to stealth instead of skullduggery.
All right.
Skullduggery
that
is
makes
like
sense.
if you're tossing the room, if he's in the room.
Yeah. So you said it was 1 red, 3 purple
Yes.
for you. Okay. And then we're gonna do stealth.
And in terms of boost and setback and everything else,
Maybe I'm just hyper caffeinated, but I'm so scared right now.
It's because no one knows what's going to
So
happen.
No, you get-
not even Del and I. This is all.
you get
Yeah.
one boost for presumably Toby being in the room.
Yep.
But also 1 setback for presumably Eugene being in the room.
Yep, that
Feeling
checks out.
buddies.
So there's that. I think that's
I mean, I would pitch additional setback because there's no way Valentyne has it like on a shelf. Like it's going to be locked in something.
yeah, but I think that's accounted for in the difficulty as well. Which
Oh,
is
fair enough.
like, yeah.
This is the Amasec and then the Trank that he took initially.
No, there was multiple because there's one that you had we brought on the ship,
There was-
and then
it was
they
just-
found one on the.
I think it was just
broken
the
ship.
one bottle that got brought over from
Yeah.
the delivery. I don't think he kept anything previous to that. He'd had all alcohol tossed off the ship.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
So it's
that's
just the
right.
one
So
bottle.
it's just the one bottle
It's just
from
the
the
one
wreckage.
bottle. Yeah, from that weird dead captain.
Yep.
I think that's it now in terms of story points. I haven't written a box this time. I'm fucking free.
We have
it's 2 and 3.
I
know.
believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the interest of this check, since Del, you are the one making the check, you have access to the 2. I am going to spend 1 to raise the difficulty by 1 red because I think
Then I'm gonna spend one.
narratively discovery trumps non-discovery.
Just doing what I want to do right now.
I get it. I respect it.
Inquisition be damned. All right, I'm gonna roll it.
I mean, yeah, I can see how the resentment gets ratcheted up.
Oh, fuck me.
Uh-oh.
3 failures, but 4 advantages.
Cool. It sounds like your next character is going to get a lot of boost.
3 failures. Oof.
Okay,
doof.
so you are searching. Ryan,
Yes,
you gotta-
Ryan.
pitch.
Yeah, go for it. Take it away.
You find the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hidden super brilliantly or anything. It's like inside a relatively easily unlocked cabinet. And you go to leave only to discover that the front door is locked and you don't have the passcode to get out. And then the lights click on and Valentyne says, "What are you doing?"
Morgan, where is he stand? Like, where and how is he standing?
I mean, you're going to turn around. You're facing the door.
we're gonna turn around.
Valentyne is just sitting on his bed, arms folded, looking at you.
I am taking a farewell present to someone.
Who are you saying farewell to?
Eli,
And why are you saying farewell?
because I am going to be stuck sleeping here for the rest of forever, assumedly.
Why do you want to destroy someone you care about?
He wants to destroy himself. I am just helping.
That is you destroying him. Right now, he doesn't want to destroy himself. He's struggling through recovery from an addiction and doing a great deal of work to stay sober.
Morgan is going to walk slowly back to his desk and put the bottle back down on it and just kind of sidle herself up onto the desk corner and look at him. There have been a lot of very fast changes recently, and for someone who is stuck in a very slow life for many years, you have the tendency to fall back on what works. But fine, Inquisitor.
Fine what? I'm not really sure what you're agreeing to. I hadn't said anything yet.
Fine, I agree with you. He will live longer if he is not in a drunken stupor, but he is a better conversationalist when he's drunk.
I don't disagree with that. However, I mean, you have an excellent conversation partner here. What's on your mind?
You wish to talk to me, Inquisitor.
Yes.
I don't want to talk to you. Right now.
Oh, well, if you were another Inquisitor, you'd have the right to be able to say that to me, but unfortunately, you're not. So what's on your mind? So what are the perks of being an actual Inquisitor, something that you could work towards?
I see. I'm just thinking about Cora.
And
the Inquisition and how people like me and her are treated like so much disposable garbage. And I wonder what... It is just funny, the things that he thinks about things, because, you are all raised this way. You were raised in the Imperium and the military, but the people out there, they don't have the same feelings. They have different fears.
Interesting. And he'll stand up and he'll take the bottle and he'll take out 2 glasses and pour one for Morgan and pour another for himself and then sit down and sip it and say, I've never entirely understood the feelings of normal people. Please explain.
I had thought you might not. Well, you grew up in the Schola Progenium, learning so many things about all of the universe and all of these different worlds.
I mean, to be clear, no, I learned a great deal about how to use a chainsword, the Imperial military primer, violence, and command. I learned more about the universe once I was ejected out of that and into the Inquisition. My first years were all combat violence, following orders, otherwise ruthless corporal punishment.
I see. I did not know that. Well, something new. But she's like playing with it. She's not even really drinking this drink. She liked getting Eli drunk. She's like playing with it and putting her finger around the rim and stuff. But people who are not from those worlds, they know only the world that they are from. They think that that is the world, that is everything, that things make sense. And so, when other people come from somewhere else and tell them everything they do is wrong and they deserve to die, normal people don't understand and they don't just bow down.
I mean, dare I suggest, it sounds like it may be more particular to you than the average Imperial citizen.
Maybe.
So you don't want to bow down to the Imperium?
I do not want my life to be thrown away for no reason at all.
And you think that your life will find great meaning outside of the Inquisition?
She's gonna throw the glass against the wall. I do not know, Inquisitor. That is a problem.
Well, it feels like at the core of this is a question that you're just not asking, which is what is the value of your life in the Inquisition and what is the value of your life outside of it?
I also don't know that. What was the value of Cora? She was trash hive scum, from what I could ascertain. She was sent here from another Inquisitor. She's this interrogator, an important person about to become an Inquisitor, and we leave her to die. And who cares?
Well, we didn't leave her to die. She was lost in combat. Imagine if Cora had not been on that mission. We would have been overrun from behind by Tyranids. You would be dead. Atticus would be dead. I would be dead. This entire ship would have been called in unstopped. This entire crew would be dead. Canehurst would be marauding around the galaxy, creating an entire army of Tyranids that, as we saw from the psychic disruption breaking it in that ship, would have immediately converted over to the Tyranids the moment any significant psychopresence was found. Cora stopped that. She wasn't trash who died in a hole. That's just an incredibly cynical way of looking at it. Cora was an interrogator. Cora took oaths that meant things to her. Cora risked her life. Was she a flawed human being? Absolutely.
Yes, but even if she did not die there, you wanted me to kill her.
Yes. Have you heard of the cabal that we're chasing? She was going to become a part of it. You have to balance the small against the great, the singular against the many.
Yes, and how do you know that you are right? How do you know that these visions you are seeing are sent from the Emperor and not the Warp?
Well, I'm not a psyker, so they're not coming from the warp. And at the same time, I have stopped heretical actions through what I have done. Gaiasgau Vicodin, farming xenos biology to promote alcohol. Fabius Bile, arch traitor and renegade of the last 10,000 years. They are who we have stopped chasing these visions. That is a net gain, even if I am wrong. I'm not, but even if I were wrong. And at the same time, the question you have to ask yourself is, what is the cost to the galaxy of us pursuing, killing these heretics, versus what is the cost if I am wrong and we do nothing? Each of these individual heretics would still be acting in concert in some terrible way towards a goal that no one else has spotted. So we interfere.
I suppose we do. Fine, it makes sense to me. She gets up, she's like, I'm going to sleep, and goes to the cot.
Excellent. And Valentyne will just, like, take the bottle and lock it up in, like, a gene-locked safe with a thumbprint, where he normally keeps it, but he left it out to set a trap.
Amazing. You fall asleep knowing that your travels will soon be over. You'll soon arrive at Greybridge. And having prepared yourselves as best you can, you also prepare for the very harsh reality that there's only so much you can do from this ship with such limited information. For Eli, you're about to step both into a world of more mental clarity, but with that comes all of the shit you have not dealt with for years, as well as
mental clarity, but
also mental clarity. But also into a world that you know very little about, a role that you're ill prepared for, but also a very specific task, which is something you haven't had in like a really long time. So there's some benefit to that. Yeah. Morgan, you of course are struggling with what your life means, both personally, but also to the Inquisition, what it means to have purpose, which is something that you've probably kind of skirted for a while. It's easier when you have someone with destructive purpose to hang around for that, and without that, it is very difficult. So we're kind of wrestling with the larger questions that have been asked there. Valentyne, with yet another kind of like loaded gun problem in your retinue, which is not new, but is alarmingly common, as well as the fact that the greatest power you can wield is not available to you on this planet. Not that you haven't worked without Inquisitorial backing before, but it's just odd to not be able to flash the rosette and get a response. And Atticus, you're listening to so many audiobooks, just learning all sorts of obscure relatives. Luckily, the Van Houten family is not particularly impressive, so it's not like you have to learn a tremendous lineage. But I like to imagine all these other dramas happening, just like Atticus in his room being like, right, Van von Houten the 15th, dead. Yeah, it's like a book on tape, like learning your mantras.
Yeah, Triceus was smart enough to disable the like listening to it at 1.5 speed, because Atticus would have learned how to pronounce all the names at 1.5 speeds. Like you have to lock it in at normal.
Yeah.
How do you think he's doing on that, Tyler?
It's not his strong suit, but at the same time, through sheer force of will, like you do your job. The soldier in the foxhole with you depends on you to know how to do your job. So even if it's like one name, like repeated like 4 times as he just rewind, play, he is doing it. It fucking probably sucks for him, but he is doing it.
Amazing. So as you know, dramatics and questions of loyalty and purpose reign throughout the ship, Atticus, you do what you're best at, which is your job, as the ship emerges from the warp and begins its descent into Greybridge. long after the Marnie's song has departed the asteroid field and the mercy for the pure has dissipated into atoms and shreds, a single vessel limps is perhaps the best term into the field. Its pilot is very good at piloting, although his brain is not exactly his own. And the ship, although somewhat jerky and somewhat irregular in its movements, makes its way kind of through the mess. And sure enough, the dim but present life sign on one of the pods yields a delightful result to Octavius Blackhand, who cuts into the pod with one of his many saws, a broad grin on his face. For after all, following in the wake of Inquisitor Valentyne has yielded just the most delightful results. Being broken out of his stasis, excellent. That was nice. He was working on it, but it's very hard when your brain isn't functional. But the gift of two such wonderful allies has served him, and thus following the Inquisitor wherever he goes is just... well, it's just the way to do it, you know? And with a hiss, the pod empties out a starved, half-conscious interrogator at his feet. And as Cora looks up into the flaming eyes of her brother, the endless scream of her sister, and the grin of a corrupted Adeptus Mechanicus, Blackhand just grins and says, "Oh, this retinue just continues to grow." And his claws reach out and embrace her. From the records of Von Van Houten the 16th. Now we may be leaving Greybridge, and we may never come back, but the important thing is that we left with dignity intact. Now everybody get in the only ship we can afford. Let's go find our fortunes in space. You have arrived at the planet Greybridge, named for the only city on the planet, which is Greybridge. It is a city-wide or a planet-wide city with a lot of there's still sort of when I say city is perhaps a strong term for the entire space. There are sort of rural mansions and that sort of thing in the very classic English countryside way. But the important thing to note is that you're either moving between large estates or you are in the town. There's really nothing else here. It's not like a Coruscant level of everything is skyscrapers, but it very much is there's no undeveloped part of this planet. It is all very much Greybridge. It's almost like a city-state sort of situation, but planetary. You arrive on a rainy day, which is not uncommon for this planet. Greybridge is surrounded, as you come through the atmosphere, by thick, that sort of kind of bright gray of a cloud that is dense but not heavy. You're sort of pulling through that as the first sort of hailing signal comes in, and Eli, as the supposed driver for this, you receive a call. So your comms kind of jump to life. Obviously, your presence was noted, and you've been pinged kind of as you come into atmosphere. That said, anyone who makes it past the sort of flotilla of ships, security ships surrounding the planet, has to, pass muster. Given the fact that you've got the rogue trader credentials, that communication is your ship isn't blasted out of the sky before it reaches the planet, basically. But then you get the ping.
Eli will send back their credentials on the same frequency.
Excellent.
Isn't that what you do?
It's what you did. So you receive a voice communication that kind of crackles to life in that classic janky 40K technology way that just says, hello, unidentified vessel. This is ground control here at Greybridge. We understand you are coming in with rogue trader credentials for... and sorry, Del, the name is Rawls
Varn.
Varn.
Mm-hmm.
So you're operating under Captain Rawls Varn, but your ship ID does not seem present here. What is the name of your vessel?
Did we?
This is a reskin to like a fake ID, so it can be whatever you want. Eli, we would have probably let Eli name a ship. Eli's got way more experience of pulling over
He's a
random
Navy
ships
man.
to check them than anything else.
Oh, that's true. It's the roguish tradester.
Okay. You hear kind of a...
Because Eli wants it to be like... he's too clean cut still to go like too far away from something. Like he can't... He's just not that original.
I like it too because it's like, I can't fuck this up because it just is what it is. So you hear kind of a, well, that is very accurate. So the roguish tradester, excellent. And may I presume that you are seeking to land here for the celestial season?
That's correct, sir.
May I ask, and please, I'm no lord, I'm but a humble servant of the planet. May I ask, what is your cargo? What are you hoping to sell here on our fine planet? We are very well provisioned, is why I ask.
Well, we have a long-lost son returning to his family.
Oh, okay. We get a lot of those. Can you be more specific about which family? And immediately, like, you can hear pings on the Marnie's song, given the amount of technology that Billingberg put in, of, like, weapons being trained on the ship.
Yeah. The Van Houtens.
Oh, the Van Houtens are back. Oh, that's lovely. And sorry, which Van Houten? Is Vaughn back? Or do you hear some chuckles? And so, shh, guys, come on, professional.
Francois.
Oh, the nephew. Oh, yes, very good. Well, welcome back. Please tell Lord Van Houten he is, of course, welcome, and we are very pleased to hear that the Van Houtens are back. You are clear to land. The Van Houten estate...
Are you laughing, or is he laughing?
He is laughing. Yes. You're hearing him laughing, and there's like chuckles in the fucking command center behind him. And they're all very hoity. It's a lot of like, ohs. You're I imagine that is Eli, or is that
Eli
thinking?
That's Eli's internal thoughts of like, oh fuck these people.
Yep, fair enough.
But yeah, he's just silently grinding his teeth, mouth closed grinding, so it doesn't go through.
Great. It says, excellent. So you are clear to land. You may find that the Van Houten family landing pad is, well, it not in tremendously good repair. So I hope the roguish tradester has rather good landing gear. It seems appropriate for where you're going. Best of luck and enjoy the season. Ground control out. And you receive like a ping as to where like your mini map suddenly has a clear icon on it as to where to land. I assume everyone else is in the room when this all happens, so feel free to comment now that the comms are off.
I didn't think I was. Okay.
I mean, you could be. It's like Eli's flying the ship. Where would you be on approach? Would you be
Valentyne to be on the bridge watching what's going on? But in a supervisory, he doesn't fucking know what would be good on these comms or not necessarily. Like, he's got an idea of how he would fake it, but better to have somebody who's actually a pilot go through it. So just supervising.
I think Morgan would be listening on comms, but would be close by the doors, like, because she wants to be first on the ground to figure out what the fuck is going on, and is the only person who looks fancy. So she's going to be the first to leave.
I don't know. How fancy is Big Boy over here?
We don't have clothes for him yet. We gotta get that shit from here.
Okay, here's a question. When you were clearing out Billingberg's shit, would you toss the wardrobe?
No way. He would have kept everything on the ship. There's no way he's getting rid of possible costumes. This is all useful.
Right. Then maybe we have some
to make a
stuff
very
together.
Canadian reference, which may do nothing for you, Del. It's a bit of a tickle trunk scenario.
Yeah, I
Talk about the
That-
tickle trunk as well.
That sounds made up.
I mean,
Everything's
everything
made up. Yeah.
his name was Mr. Dress Up, and it was incredible. Can you guess what his power was? He dressed up, and so does Atticus.
Yeah.
All right, so I think from what Billingberg would have on board, Morgan, what look would you be trying to achieve? And I'll tell you what you get.
Yeah, she would want to lean into what Atticus already has, looking militant, because we want to sell that he was in the military, but then do the fancy version. So I think unknowingly replicating the fancy uniform that Atticus had to wear back in his days in the military.
The glorious regals.
Yes,
Regals,
yes.
All right, I like that a lot. I will say that Billingberg had a few too many frilly cuffs as well, so those are present. Kind of like a Capcom DLC costume. There's just like a little too much frill on it, but otherwise, yes, very close to the glorious regals. Okay, great. So you sort of come in through the clouds. You sort of break through the cloud cover. Rain is just pelting the ship. Like rolling off the screen. And you roll kind of across what looks like the edge of the city. So this is, again, a very bougie city. So we're not talking like skyscrapers. We're talking like not in my backyard, 3-story single-use houses. Even the office buildings all have very much a like an English or French court vibe to them in that they're very fancy buildings, but like wide and deep, but not high.
Okay.
To give that kind of pastoral vibe. Everything currently there are a lot of colors. You can see that the buildings are painted in kind of beautiful like pinks and purples and like bright yellows and blues, but all of it is muted by the rain and the color. So you can tell that there is tremendous beauty if sunlight would hit it, but from where you're looking right now, everything has almost like it's like putting a bad filter over a beautiful photograph. It's just everything feels a little dreary. The town you can see like just a variety of umbrellas as people kind of go to and fro. The umbrellas all look very functional. They don't they're fancy, but these are clearly people who are used to rain. So they're not investing in pretty things that will just get ruined. From there, you roll over estates and you see several kind of massive, beautiful estates with grounds and forests and all that sort of shit. Again, not open to the public, but open to the particular family that lives there. And eventually, the state of the estates gets a little bit worse, and the road gets a little worse, and the grounds are a little more unkempt, and more so and more so and more so until you basically turn a left down a bramble road into an overgrown field and sort of woods that have gradually encroached back towards the road. And you can see a particularly gray-looking, worn-down estate building. And beyond it, sure enough, there is an overgrown landing pad. And you can see, just kind of as you're coming into the landing pad, there is an automated. It looks like a horse-drawn carriage, but the horse is like. Not like a robot horse, but is almost like a robotic chassis that's been built into it. So the thing almost looks like a snail in that it's got like an engine, sort of like a horse-shaped engine up front, but with like a big wheel under it leading back into the cart. The cart has the other two wheels. So it gives the vibe of horse-drawn carriage without actually having to have any meat involved. And it is just tearing along the road. There's the water splashing up behind it. And as you're kind of flying in for a landing, you can see it just turn like almost misses the driveway and then like kind of skitters past it, corrects, and then is trying to navigate around the brambles and other things, but is clearly like driving to the estate as fast as it can.
Okay. Eli's going to like kind of come in, and as he's landing, he does kind of a quick 360 so that the engine wash like clears some of the bramble away from the landing pad.
Oh, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Yeah.
All right. So with that flourish, you bring the Marnie's song down, and you hear you land, and there's that heaviness of the vehicle hitting the ground, and then you hear a crunch as the landing pad inverts underneath the weight of the ship. And you can hear like permacrete just cracking and crumbling around it. It's not like the whole thing collapses through. It just depresses into the center of this very ill-kept landing pad.
That wasn't me. That was the ground beneath us.
Grimly rolls his eyes to no one but himself.
Valentyne does not need to respond to that. That's fine. Valentyne just stands there,
We're good.
turns and goes towards where the door is, where we know the team impressive entrants are ready to go.
Yep.
Great. So with that, the sort of entry, like the ramp drops. There's kind of that hiss as the cabin depressurizes, and the sort of landing ramp, I don't know what you'd even call it, like porthole, I guess. Whatever. The exit ramp opens up, and you're immediately hit by just the purest, cleanest smelling air that any of you have ever encountered. Like, this is not a common thing in the Imperium. It is a luxury that can only be afforded by a planet that requires no industry to sustain itself. And it's just that smell of like fresh earth and rain. Tyler, you've got a sour expression. Is this upsetting to Atticus?
I don't know these smells.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. I think it stings the nostrils. I think it burns to breathe it in. Yeah, you talk about the smell of fresh earth. What is that? Like, that is
Fair enough.
It's just planet smells weird.
Now over his shoulder, Valentine's goes, ugh.
Excellent.
So it
So
would smell so organic compared to
Yeah.
the usual
Yeah.
smell. It would be like disturbing. Like the idea of healthy plants smelling like rot would just be like, ugh, I don't like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it probably smells like corpses, honestly.
Yeah.
So the ramp goes down. It can't quite lower because the ship has sunk into the ground. So it like lowers to a point, but it's kind of still on a bit of an incline. And you step out onto the landing pad. The ship covers a bit of this, so it's not like you're standing directly in the rain. But yeah, it is very much that like English rain that is just not, so thick that you can't see. It's just very steady and kind of ever present. And in the distance, you can see this carriage approaching as it kind of like worms its way around the building. You can tell it's trying to go very, very quickly, but is failing. Atticus, obviously you and Morgan are sort of like the guests of honor at this thing. So I imagine you're up front. Valentyne, or I guess maybe this is a Morgan question. Have you dressed Valentyne down to fit the servant security/servant position?
I wouldn't dress him down exactly because he still needs to be fancy enough to be with fancy guy, but definitely get rid of anything that makes him look military. Try and make him look more like a person, which we have to give sunglasses to Valentyne. We can't have him looking like that, being a servant guy. So, yeah.
Valentyne would agree with most of what Morgan pitches, but he would make a few changes because he is not willing to go weaponless. He'd fancy it up a little bit. So he would take his breastplate that he normally wears that has the big aquila on it, but he's actually tooled up to be a member of the Inquisition to be able to disguise shit. So the aquila is detachable, so it just becomes a silver breastplate. And then he would take out a number of fabric wraps and other things to make his power sword, which is very functional, look like a ceremonial saber with like a sash around it. And the holster as well, look kind of sashed on as though it's like faux military in the style of the house. But you'd never believe that this unadorned, very boring valet, it's just like, okay. There's delusions of the military in this group. Mm-hmm. Rosette stays hidden. Compact last pistol stays hidden. It's just there to look like he's putting on a show of fake military force that is actually quite real. What is unsettling, I think, for Morgan and everyone else is he's a very good liar and a performer. So it's the same guy in a jacket that's kind of the like buttoned up and put together in that like butlery kind of way. But man, he does go obsequious and kind of forgettable real fast because the same smile that's had authority behind it, it's just the authority disappears. And then he's just that like always smiling barista at a Starbucks.
I love that
just, like,
guy. I
happy to
think he
help.
loves
Yeah.
me. Definitely loves me. Right?
He asks me how my day is and he means it.
I'm different from other people.
So he would just be probably about 5 feet behind them, just a distance enough that he clearly would not be a part of a conversation. But if he's asked, he can swoop in, just ready as a valet.
Gotcha. And how have you dressed up poor Eli?
Yeah, we if we can find some stuff that would look piloty or have some kind of fancy sash or something like that. But
rounded shoulders.
Yeah. So gotta make him look a little more normal also.
Yeah, Grimly's just like wearing his like underwear, like casual gear, because he had to give most of his like casual piloting gear off to Eli. And imagine Eli would not reciprocate, so he's just hanging out.
No.
If we dress Grimly from the fucking Tickle Trunk, he just looks like an absolute moron with like random outfit pieces we didn't use for Atticus.
Everything left over, yeah.
He's like, it's a living.
He's got one of those frilly Shakespeare collars. It's like 3 feet out. He like can't see the controls while he's wearing it.
Just
right.
cut out a hole in the front of it.
Yeah, it's falling down like a dicky.
He both looks like a Shakespearean character and a Dutch schoolboy.
Yeah, that's our boy Grimly.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Great.
And
So
the only thing that Morgan would change about herself is she would find a fancy hat in Millingburg stuff. She's a fancy rogue trader hat.
we gotta.
When you say fancy
Yes,
hat,
thank you,
Yeah.
Ryan. Thank you.
please describe this hat.
This is a big hat, and it's got it's got like a big sash around the top of it, and it's got feathers, and it's got like a little bit of trailing lace coming off the back
Is
of it.
this like a floppy hat or is this like a pirate hat?
It's like a pirate hat. Yeah.
Nice. What color?
Cool.
It's dark blue with a gold sash and colored bird feathers on it. Fancy.
Yeah, I'd fight you on this, but I feel like Billingberg would have won that.
Yeah.
As a fancy bald dude, I think he would have gone hard on hats. So I think it's reasonable to imagine that his Tickle Trunk had this exact hat.
Yeah. I think it's a hat that was on display on the wall. Like he tried to wear it and then it was too ostentatious. So
You can't wear it in
she's
the rain.
doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
follow-up question, Morgan. Now that we know there's a selection of hats and Atticus is bald, did you give Atticus a hat to make him as fancy as you?
Yes.
And what does that hat look
Oh,
like?
Atticus has top hat. He has a straight up top hat with the military, and it has to match like the colors, the whatever extra colors you put on the hat matches his military like epaulets and all that stuff.
And how tall is the hat?
So it makes him look a bit taller for sure.
So it's not unreasonable.
Billingberg was a tall man, so he wouldn't have a tremendously tall hat. But yes, Atticus is now 2.5 feet tall. Whatever the fuck. This just keeps shrinking every time we mention it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I don't know if Billingberg would have it, but when we're coming in land, like if there's umbrellas, we can't have our fancy lad walking around without someone holding an umbrella for him.
There are not.
We're gonna have to go buy an umbrella.
Yeah. Well, you may not need to, because as you stand there kind of determining, like, I think it's literally Morgan, like, reaching a hand out from under and looking, like, considering the hats. The carriage pulls up with, like, a screeching halt. And the side door opens up kind of like a DeLorean door. So it's like the gull wing doors.
Mm-hmm.
And a man kind of spills out, and he looks over at you guys, realizes that there are no umbrellas, and like reaches into, like, runs around the back and just comes out with an armful of umbrellas. And he is just sort of like an Eddie Redmayne looking guy, just like very kind of frazzled. He's got kind of like curly red hair that's immediately getting like soaked. He's wearing fancy gear, but in a clearly like more of a clerk version of it. So, he's certainly got like the big sleeves and like tails on his coat, but it's just like a single color. It's kind of like a robin's egg blue situation that is soaking through immediately. And he just says, "Oh dear, I'm so terribly sorry. If I'd known that you were coming, Lord Van Houten, and rogue trader, was it Captain Varn?
That is right.
My apologies. I only got the briefing mere minutes ago. I would have been here to greet you. My apologies. My name is Hugh Smiggleton, and I've been assigned to help get you settled here back at the Van Houten estate. Of course, I've been instructed by His Majesty King Fitzgerald to apologize on behalf of the Crown that your serving staff is no longer here. Of course, given your long absence from the estate, it was assumed that you had died. So my apologies. Here are some umbrellas, and he just like quickly hands out umbrellas, and he's like, you can tell from his bearing, he is like deeply upset that he can't hold an umbrella for all of you, because that is technically what he should be doing. But there are too many of you, so it's just like umbrellas all the way around. And then he pops one specifically for you, Atticus, and then he kind of like waits expectantly.
The apology from His Majesty is accepted, but yours is not.
I'll take that. Eli grabs the umbrella from him, puts it above Atticus's head.
And this guy bows lower than you thought a man could bow. It's just like full on, like kicks one leg out, arms out, like bows almost to his toe. Like it's a very forehead to knee situation. And he just says, I understand and we'll do better, Captain.
Good.
Are you all that was sent to welcome me?
And rising, you can tell he's a little sheepish about this, but he says, yes, Lord Van Houten. Unfortunately, your family's credit has run rather deeply into the negatives. I am in training to be a clerk of the court, and thus I was all that could be, as my superiors told me, all that could be spared.
Well, if you were briefed, you would know that I am here to repair my family's good name.
With respect, sir, all we received was what your driver told us mere minutes ago as you were coming through the atmosphere.
Well, I am here to repair my family's good name. And you are going to help me, as you are at my disposal, correct?
Correct, sir. There's nothing I would appreciate more.
Go and prepare my quarters. I'm going to wait on the ship.
Very good, sir. And he looks to how fancily, but also kind of messily you're all dressed, and he says, "You're, in what fashion would you like me to dress the room?"
You will dress the room to a degree that you deem appropriate, and you will be measured and weighed on your choices.
Ah, very good, sir. A trap. I like it. And he nods, and with a little skip and a step, he runs away. Valentyne, you can spot ambition from a mile away. This kid knows this is his shot.
Fabulous.
So he takes off into the house, and for the house, you can kind of imagine, like, I'm thinking very much, this is a weird poll, but the like, almost like the Amityville horror style house, where it's just like, it's got like a big spooky kind of tower, and then it's built out, but it is like gray. There's like cracks in the roof. Like it really has, on a planet that rains all the time, aside from like the forced seasons, like without upkeep, it is not great. But he runs inside and immediately like starts lighting lamps because there is no electricity to your building, given that you haven't paid in quite some time, and starts to get things ready.
Nice. Valentyne would have, before arrival here, liquidated and mobilized some highly valuable financial assets of our dear friend Barthas Billingberg, so that when they showed up, they can make a pretty good fucking splash on this planet, to the point where they wouldn't have to, if you're cool with this, Tom, I imagine this makes sense, that it's like, oh, I took over the evil geniuses' businesses. I gave some of them to that crazy witch hunter to go burn down, but like, I definitely took all the cash from the accounts and have a real solid way for us to be able to make kind of a big move. And he would look to everybody else and just be like, well, it seems we have an ambitious youngster who's arrived. I could approach him as another valet and see if I could gain any financial information about the house, pay off the debts, begin to make things interesting.
Right. How do we get ourselves into the good graces of the folks in the Cloud Palace?
That is an excellent question. Now, I'm willing to take opinions from anyone. He looks around the room and sees probably Eli, who looks very confused, and Atticus, who's completely shocked, and Morgan, I don't know what expression you're making. That's a you question.
It's like cat face.
Just staring at me with cold, dead eyes. He's like, this is all normal to Valentyne. And he's like, so we kind of have two options. One, we could try to compete and work our way up through large capital expenditure, which is a possibility. Or we could try to remain an oddity at the edge and offer something that one might say is a little more risky and a little more interesting. Why fix up the whole grounds when instead we could turn this place into a bit of a grotto and a piece of something the wealthy might want to come down and walk through, because we're going to allow them a walk on the wilder side?
That's been my thinking as well, sir. I figure I can't fully become this Francois Van Houten. Might as well leverage some of my inherent strengths. I'm dangerous. I'm assuming these lot fancy a bit of danger in their lives.
The idle rich are known to want to cater to death for some reason, so excellent. That makes sense. Morgan, do you have any opinions on how we should move forward?
Yes, I think leaning into the oddity and intrigue will make a good splash and perhaps draw notice where Running up the ranks is what everyone else is trying to do.
Excellent. So we'll bring them to us instead of us going to them. Eli, do you have anything to add?
I am in deference to your opinions.
He's gotten stuck.
Honestly, I'm okay with it. Valentyne would just want to go into the house and talk with this valet who's like getting the place ready because he needs to see the accounts to be able to kind of like ledger some things in to get it done.
Sure. So you enter the mansion, and it is like, in my head, it's just literally like the opening room from Resident Evil, which is like staircases, and like there's a giant portrait of Van Houten the 12th, who looks like Van Houten the 16th, but like he had money. That is kind of water warped a little bit. There's like clearly like cracks in the ceiling and other things. Hugh has lit some lamps, just enough to cast little light, but he's very much like, you can tell he's like lighting lamps as he runs by, and it's just enough for like a servant to do his work, not for like the lord of the house to enter in any real way. You can hear him upstairs. There is clearly at the top of this kind of central tower, a sort of a bedroom for the head of the household. And as you come in, you see him just like having the challenge of like having to wear fancy clothes while doing like an incredibly like heavy work job of like, he's literally like up there with a broom, just trying to like stuff essentially newspaper into a hole in the ceiling that's leaking water. He's lit a couple lamps in here. The bedroom is musty. The bed is like kind of gross. And he's just like, fucking stupid rain, as he jams it with the broom. Upon hearing footsteps behind him, though, he immediately turns ready to bow, and then sees that it's you, and he just says, "Oh, hello, sir. Can I? Does Lord Van Houten need something?"
It's a pleasure to meet you, Master Smiggleton. I am Rebute Figarello, the valet to Lord Van Houten. I'm here to assist you with your tasks, get access to our accounts so we could pay off those debts and allow this house to move forward more quickly.
Oh, well, that is a tremendous relief, sir. I must tell you, the people were not thrilled to hear that the Van Houten family was returning based on how much money they owe everyone. So if you're able to make, did his lordship make a lot of money in the military then?
Oh, through his service, through conquest, through his partnership with rogue traders, the Lord is greatly capable of violence, victory, financial stability, and success, along with, shall we say, the ability to create some salacious events along the way.
He goes like beet red and says, "Salacious? Here? In the society?"
The master does what he must. He does what he must to remain a lord, to raise his status, and to allow those around him to, shall we say, enjoy themselves in whatever manner they please.
And he just like nods himself and is like, "The master does what he must." Good. Well, this is excellent. I must say it is a relief to have some new people around here. The society is rather a lot.
Yes. We've been away for some time. Can you fill me in on the new changes in the society? I want to be able to pass them along to the Lord and Master to make sure that he blends in and serves the king as well as is possible.
Can you roll me let's go with
deception?
I mean, are you lying? I mean, I guess you're...
Every part of this is a lie. He's a lord. I'm a valet.
Yeah,
I'm here to find out because we love the king so much.
Yeah. Look, I'm just, the line between Tom and Hugh Smiggleton is blurring. I may not be able to come out of this.
I will also say, for everybody else in the party, Valentyne would have had his micro bead on an active, so you're all hearing this, that you can't be in this conversation.
Okay.
We're getting into a little more spycraft now that we're on the spy side of things. So, Tom, what's my difficulty on this?
All right, so I'm going to give you a difficulty of 3. I will give you a boost for the way you're approaching it. It's a difficulty of 3 because despite the fact that you're doing all this, like, it's still information that he's giving away to someone who isn't the Lord, and also like he's not sure where anything sits. So it's not that he distrusts you. It's just that you're asking for faith that he is perhaps ill prepared to give. Beyond that, are there any Valentyne skills you would want to argue for here?
Valentyne Probably not at this point, because it doesn't really require that of him. No, because like his stuff is more like he's good at bullying people into leaving. He's good at kind of like distracting people with conversation or reconstructing a scene. So like if he can't get the information out of this guy, he's going to go through the house, get access to the ledgers, and try to rebuild what clearly the family has fault. But if he can get this from this guy, fuck, that's way better.
Okay.
For the outfit, is that worth anything?
No,
I guess this counts
he
with
accepts. Yeah, he accepts your authority based on stuff. So yeah, okay. Let's go with that. I'm not going to spend a story point on this because it's not.
Yeah, me neither. This is just a conversation. It happens or it doesn't.
Yep.
3 success and 3 advantage.
Man, Hugh Smiggleton, big fan of Rabute Figuerello. He just kind of like sighs and like pulls the broom down and like leans on it, and like the newspaper immediately begins to soak through. And he just shakes his head at it and says, yes, of course. I appreciate coming into the society from being away for so long would be incredibly difficult. Not that I know anything about the outside world particularly, but I know things here are very, very specific. If it would be helpful, I can bring you the latest Lizzo Lizardman papers. Lizzo is a local gossip. No one knows their true identity. But the Lizardman papers are quite notorious if you're looking for salacious details. Lizardman is the letter you want, the Lizardman letter. So I can bring you some of those if you want to get a general sense of what's been going on. In terms of the other families, I imagine if I understand from the small briefing I had, Lord Van Houten, he would have been fairly young when he left Greybridge. Is that correct?
That's correct. He doesn't remember a great deal about this place, though he holds it in very high esteem.
Oh, I understand. Admittedly, younger folks don't pay as much attention to the society for good reasons. I will endeavor to put together some reports on the various families that you'll need to know about. More specifically, am I to understand that Lord Van Houten has returned seeking the Duke Wixthrop's hand?
You are correct.
Then you will need to know about the other eligible heirs that are also seeking his hand this season. There are, of course, a number of houses that stand absolutely no chance, but Lizzo Lizardman has been putting down some pretty good bets, and they are rarely wrong. So I will put together that report for you. In terms of the ledger, I'm more than happy to, depending on the water damage, get the terminal going, which will give you limited access to being able to start settling the accounts. I can also send some representatives from the banking guild over, if that would be of benefit to you.
Yes, all of the above. I'll deal with those concerns directly. There's no need to involve the master in depressing financial matters.
Of course not.
Instead, we'll solve these problems immediately. What are you making working for the nation state currently?
Oh, he kind of straightens up and it says, I'm simply an apprentice clerk, but my rations are rather good. I am in the 3rd percentile. So things aren't, I'm not rolling in rations, but I certainly get my fair share. And I've been promised a mid-sized room when I graduate into full clerkdom, which is better than some can say. So I'm on my way.
Excellent. I'd like to offer you a cottage on the property, quadrupling of your ration, and we'd like to hire you to help us liaise with the rest of the planet.
And like he just goes white as a sheet, and he says, "But I am. Perhaps you misunderstood. I am an apprentice clerk. I'm not a full-fledged clerk yet. Surely you want a clerk for that. That's what clerks are for."
You seem like a tremendously capable individual, and most importantly, you've not been corrupted by politics. Instead, you remain loyal to this house, which is why I'm willing to advance you a full 6 months' rations tomorrow.
He just throws up. He just like just full body heave, collapses, and says, "I'll clean this up." Of course, I would be a fool to say no. I must ask: does Lord Van Houten intend to stay? For if I do leave my post and step out of my apprenticeship, then I will be hard pressed to find work.
If you will have a bright future with this house on an ongoing basis.
Well, I would be honored. I'd be honored. First, let me clean up my disgrace, and then Let me get everything going for you. We can speak about details later, but it is of utmost importance that we help you get your ledger sorted.
Excellent. Excellent. I look forward to working with you, all in the name of House Van Houten.
Yes, for House Van Houten. Our house. Oh my, I have a house.
Exactly. We'll have to get you a patch for that outfit.
And he just like immediately his eyes dart to like the empty spot on his sleeve. He just nods and says, yes, very good. But first the ledgers so that the Van Houten name can be cleared. And he runs away with a little skip in his step. And then he comes back like a minute later to clean up the vomit. And once he's done doing that, he takes off with a spring in his step yet again.
Perfect. Valentyne goes back to the ship to chat with everybody else.
All right, we have our local contact. We can make things work and move forwards rather more quickly. And most importantly, we now have someone who can speak to the guild who knows what the chug is going on. In case anyone was wondering, at the end of this, if it all goes to, shite, and it very well might, we will bring him with us. He can become an asset of the Inquisition. I'm not leaving him behind.
Right, so he's not as expendable as others then, eh?
Correct. We need to try to get through this as legitimately as possible. Our goal is not to create any bodies. If it becomes necessary, we'll move forward with the utmost ruthlessness, but until now, it's a political situation. It requires political solutions. It's going to take him a while to get the terminals up and running and get the house the least bit functional. Right now it smells like vomit and there's a hole in the ceiling, but we do have this lovely ship to stay aboard until the time is necessary. Remember, his security clearance is 0. We are who we think we are. We keep him away from the rest of the crew.
Right. So, what are we going to do once this place is fixed up? Throw a party?
I believe that is expected of us. We'll also need to learn about the other houses, discredit the other suitors, identify this Lizzo Lizardman, and then bring him over to our side, or replace him. That one I could flip a coin on. And make a duke fall in love with you. You're a lovable fellow, aren't you, Atticus?
Oh, I'm all kinds of sunshine.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter as Atticus Viz, Laura Hamstra at EL Hamstring on Twitter as Eli Sharp, Del Borovic at Deltastic on Twitter as Morgan Rawls, and our Game Master Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and the Valentyne Heresy's artwork was created by Del Borovic at delborovic.com, DELBOROVIC. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, available at freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum-Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, and most importantly, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time. The Half-Blind Prophet, Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, Richard Cranium, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Stabby Stranger, Glitch Trick, Flynn1138, Alarain Okapi, OMG It's Big Nick, D&D and Things, Schrodinger's Pepper, Guy Edwards, Flea Unit, Madre de Gatos, Lady Maiden, Melissa Rain, Nithrian, Garbo Ape, Locke, Sam Schaefer, Waffle Marine, Dagger Rain, Rob L., Dia Delos Hoodless, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.